So we have some new information about what happened just prior to the Republican tax bill passing. Koch Industries gave $300,000 to GOP lawmakers just before the tax vote. So we spoke about this recently in regards to Paul Ryan. The Koch brothers gave him a lot of money, but they did it just after the vote. Well, now we learned that just before the vote, there was a lot of money being handed out. So 60 Republican members of Congress who voted on the bill received donations from the Koch corporate PAC just before they voted on it. Now, again, I think there were 2 Republicans in the group that got money out of the 60 who actually didn't vote for the bill. But 58 of the 60 voted for the bill after getting money from people who wanted the bill passed. 12 House members who represent districts in California and New York, which of course are giant left-leaning states where now residents are going to have big income tax hikes because the bill eliminated certain loopholes for state and local deductions. Republicans in those states, they were reluctant to vote for the bill. Like they were like, I don't know, this is really going to threaten my chance at getting reelected because, again, regular working class people in those states are now going to get a tax hike, and they're not going to get it just over the 10-year period like every other middle class person in the country will. They're going to get it immediately because the tax bill hits blue states a lot harder than it hits red states when it comes to working class voters. So they were hesitant, like, I don't know, I can't really vote for this bill because I'm really screwing my constituents. But then when the Koch brothers stepped in and said, okay, well, we're just going to give you $300,000, and then, or we'll just give you thousands of dollars for your campaign, they were like, okay, now we're going to vote for it. See, this is the problem with the way politics in the U.S. functions. And I think what's most annoying to me is that the rest of the media acts like they grandfather this stuff in. So in other words, I just saw earlier today, there's a media figure who was tweeting, like, you know, the fundraising numbers for the Republicans and the Democrats. And like, oh, look at this. It looks like the Democrats might have a good election year judging by how much money they're raising. But no, what you're doing is you're bragging about who's selling out more in that particular election cycle and acting like the fact that this party sold out more is a good indicator that they're going to win. Now, to be fair to those people, there is a grain of truth in that. Usually whoever raises more money ends up winning. But why don't you question the fundamental underpinnings of that system? I mean, obviously there's something wrong with that system. We used to make fun of the Soviet Union because in the Soviet Union, they had over a 90% re-election rate, even though people despise the government. Well, in the U.S., we have over a 90% election rate, even though the people despise the government. I mean, stop and think about that fact, that usually Congress hovers around a 20% approval rating. On a bad day, it dips to like 9%. On a good day, it might get all the way up to 28%. But that's the congressional approval rating. It's about 20%. But somehow, with that being the case, you still have an over 90% re-election rate. What does that tell you? It tells you that every single election cycle, people think, okay, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. I'm just going to suck it up and go vote for the lesser of two evils. And then immediately after they pick the person, they go, I really hate this motherfucker. I just voted for them because I feel like I have no other options. And instead of journalists and reporters pointing out how fucked up that system is and how it means it's broken, they just talk about it like it's a sporting event. Like, oh, the Democrats raise more money. Yay, Democrats. Oh, the Republicans raise more money this cycle. Yay, Republicans. No, that's the fucking problem. And now you have an even starker example of it, of you billionaires giving money to Republicans, and then those Republicans vote to screw over their constituents, give tax hikes to their constituents to give the billionaires a tax break because they're so hooked on that sweet, sweet campaign cash. So the Koch network spent $20 million in 2017 pressuring lawmakers to pass the tax cuts. They donated nearly $500,000 to Paul Ryan just 13 days after the House passed its version of the tax bill. And here's the part of the story that's just beyond grotesque. As a result of this tax bill, Charles and David Koch save up to $1.4 billion each year. What's $20 million to you when you just made $1.4 billion from your investment? Answer, chump change. Easiest thing in the world for these guys. I'll just give a few $1 million to the politicians, have them rig the system in my favor, give me a giant tax break as you raise taxes on working class people, and it's all hunky-dory. $1.4 billion richer each year. The system is completely and utterly broken. But there's an answer. There's an answer. Again, nobody will talk about it, but there's an answer. The answer is called clean elections. So clean elections means publicly financed elections. You ban private money from elections. So no Goldman Sachs giving money, no Raytheon and Boeing and defense contractors giving money, no ExxonMobil, none of that. Ban it all. Ban it all. And strictly punish people who you catch taking a bribe. Have very strict punishments for that. But you make it so that people get, for example, Ro Khanna, for example, has proposed bills like this, where you give each citizen a certain amount of money where they give it to whichever politician they want. So like you get a $100 tax credit, and then you get to choose which politicians you give that money to. Like this is what a clean election is. Okay, we're going to have the people decide publicly financed elections, and you get rid of private interests. Because obviously if private interests fund the elections, well then the government is only going to represent the private interests. And the private interests are at odds with what you want. The polls show what you want. You want to legalize marijuana. You want Medicare for all. You want a living wage. Well, guess what? If the moneyed interests don't want that, well, then we're not going to get that. So there is an answer. It's called clean elections. But unfortunately right now, we have the dirtiest of dirty elections.